Here are the top stories of the news. 4 killed following attack on U.S. consulate staff convoy in Anambra State. Peter Obi appears in court as tribunal resumes pre-hearing of petition against Tinubu. On the foreign scene, former British Prime Minister calls for sanctions if Beijing attacks Taiwan. Good afternoon and welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is Okwayemuni. 4 persons have been killed following an attack on a U.S. consulate staff convoy along Atani Osamale Road in Anambra State yesterday. The spokesman for the Anambra State Police Command, Tobechukwu Ikenga, confirmed the development in a statement but said no U.S. citizen was in the convoy. The hoodlums murdered 2 of the PMF operatives and 2 staff of the consulate and set their bodies and vehicles ablaze. Ikenga said the hoodlums on sighting the responding joint security forces abducted 2 police operatives. The driver of the second vehicle escaped. While expressing the command's regret over the convoy's entry into the state without recourse to the police or any other security agency in the area, the spokesman assured that the police will not be deterred in their battle against insurgents. Meanwhile, the U.S. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said no American citizen was affected.
A whole lot. I just got informed about that here before coming on out to talk to y'all. It does look like a U.S. convoy vehicles was attacked. What I can tell you is that no U.S. citizens were involved, and therefore there were no U.S. citizens hurt. But we are aware of some casualties, perhaps even some killed. But I don't want to get too far ahead of where we are right now. It just happened, and the State Department's looking into this.
In Plateau State, the governor-elect Caleb Mutfwang says foreign mercenaries are behind attacks in the state. Recently, over 20 persons were killed in the north-central state, prompting the imposition of a curfew in 2 communities of Fungzai and neighboring Kubat in the newly created district of Wai in the Mangu local government area. But the governor-elect blamed foreign mercenaries for the incident and the incessant attacks in the state. According to Mutfwang, the mercenaries are being sponsored, but it does not know those behind it. Ebonyi State Police Command yesterday paraded 4 suspects allegedly involved in the murder of a traditional ruler of Umweze Okaha community in Eze North local government area, Eze Ewa. The monarch was killed in his premises on February 27th by men armed with AK-47 rifles, believed to be members of a confraternity. The police public relations officer in the state, SP Onome Onovopoyeya, told journalists that the command had been on the trail of all the criminals involved and that 4 key suspects had been arrested while others remained at large. Onovopoyeya further disclosed that 4 other criminals were also apprehended for belonging to a gang stealing from unsuspecting members of the public. The police said efforts were ongoing to apprehend other suspects still on the run, assuring Ebonyi residents the accused will be arrested and made to face the law. Now to politics. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has arrived at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Abuja for the presumed pre-hearing of his petition against the president-elect, Bola Tinubu. Labour Party National Chairman Julius Abure was also in court today, while the party's factional chairman, Lamidi Apapa, was also present. The tribunal had last week adjourned the pre-hearing session on Obi and Labour Party's petition to May 17th at the instance of the petitioners. Today, the justices arrived to commence the day's proceedings and also refused to acknowledge the representation of the party aside from Obi. A mild drama, however, happened between the 2 factions of the Labour Party on which group should be in court. The tribunal refused to take an appearance for the Labour Party as acting national chairman of the party, Lamidi Apapa, as well as the national women's leader of the party, Dudu Bandugu, tried to make an appearance for Labour Party when the petition was called.
Are you a party official? Don't stand up for anybody. What are you saying? Who are you? I
They are Papa-led faction.
This is not party official.
This is not the office.
Meanwhile, the Lagos State chapter of the Labour Party says no fewer than 20 lawyers and legal professionals have volunteered to help the party and its candidates retrieve their allegedly stolen mandates. The party, at a meeting with some of its candidates in the last general elections, said that a legal team had offered to render services to candidates who felt cheated following the outcome of the February 25th and March 18th general elections in the state. The Lagos State Labour Party chairperson Dayo Ekong disclosed this while addressing the frontline candidates and other critical stakeholders at the party's secretariat in Ikeja yesterday evening in Lagos. Ekong assured that the state executives would continue to stand behind all candidates challenging the outcome of the last general elections. In the meantime, President-elect Bola Tinubu and the presidential candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, in the 2023 election, Rabiu Kwankwaso, have met in Paris. The meeting, which took place in the French capital on Monday, was organized by Kwankwaso's ally, Abdulmumin Jibrin, who was formerly in Tinubu's camp. Tinubu, and in the wake of his declaration as the winner of the presidential elections, said it would run a government of national unity. The former Lagos State governor defeated Kwankwaso and others to emerge the winner of February's hotly contested election. The leadership of the All Progressives Congress, APC, met with Godswill Akpabio and Jibrin Barau as part of efforts by the National Working Committee of the party to resolve the lingering crisis over its zoning arrangement for the 10th National Assembly. The APC had nominated Akpabio as Senate President and Barau as his deputy, but as part of moves to address the situation, Akpabio, Barau, and over 40 other senators arrived at the Muhammadu Buhari House in Abuja yesterday. At the end of the meeting, which was held behind closed doors, Senator Akpabio expressed optimism about emerging as the next Senate President. Staying with politics, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he's committed to further strengthen the U.S.-Nigeria partnership with the incoming administration of President-elect Bola Tinubu. U.S. Department of State spokesperson Matthew Miller said Blinken spoke with Tinubu, who is in France, yesterday. Miller said the two leaders discussed the importance of inclusive leadership that represents all Nigerians, continued comprehensive security cooperation, and reforms to support economic growth. The development comes a few days after the U.S. announced the imposition of visa restrictions on Nigerians who allegedly disrupted the recently concluded elections. The U.S. said the affected persons were involved in voter threats, results manipulation, physical violence, and other activities that undermined democracy. In other news, the federal government has warned members of the National Association of Resident Doctors, NAD, to shelve their planned 5-day warning strike, describing it as illegal. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, issued the warning yesterday, shortly after receiving a letter from the NAD executive notifying him of impending industrial action built to commence today. The Labour Minister advised the doctors to avail themselves of the opportunity for social dialogue with their employer rather than embark on a warning strike, arguing that it was unknown to the law. The doctors, amongst other issues, are demanding the immediate payment of a 2023 Medical Residency Training Fund, upward review of a consolidated medical salary structure, and payment of all salary arrears owed its members from 2015. The association also condemned the controversial bill seeking to compel medical and dental practitioners to practice for 5 years before relocating abroad, saying the surge would rather escalate the challenge of brain drain in the health sector. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and the Netherlands, Rishi Sunak and Mark Rutte, have agreed to build an international coalition to provide fighter jet support for Ukraine, a key item of military equipment Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has long sought from Western allies supporting his country's fight against Russian forces. A spokesman for Sunak's Downing Street office said in a statement yesterday following a meeting at the Council of Europe summit in Iceland, where the Prime Minister reiterated his belief that Ukraine's rightful place is in NATO, and the leaders agreed on the importance of allies providing long-term security assistance to Ukraine to guarantee they can deter against future attacks. Most NATO members in Europe have kept open the possibility of sending their F-16s to Ukraine, even as President Joe Biden said the United States would not do so. You're watching News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break.
Aminatu, the legendary Queen of Zazao, is best known to historians as Queen Amina of Zaria, an old walled town and capital of the Hausa state of Zazao. Amina was a great warrior and the first woman to rule the ancient kingdom of Zazao. Her 34 years as queen witnessed an unprecedented expansion of Zazao by conquests. Queen Amina of Zaria belongs to the class of Amazons by the might of her army and her strings of conquests. She opened Zaria to trans-border trade and was said to have initiated kola nut cultivation in the ancient kingdom. The Hausa Muslim figure was born in 1533 and died in 1610 at the age of 77 years. Folklores remember Aminatu, the Queen of Zazao, as a brave, smart and talented leader whose giant statue now adorns the National Arts Theatre in Lagos, Nigeria, while many educational institutions bear her name. Western Spring Television identifies Queen Amina as a watershed character in history.
Welcome back on Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. Now to the rest of the stories. Former British Prime Minister Liz Truss has said democratic countries must make clear to Beijing that it would face sanctions and other repercussions if it attacked Taiwan. Truss told reporters during a news conference in Taipei today that it was clear that President Xi has the ambition to take Taiwan. Truss, Britain's shortest-serving prime minister, arrived in Taiwan yesterday for a 5-day visit, and she is the first former British leader to visit Taiwan since Margaret Thatcher in 1996. She was greeted by Foreign Minister Joseph Wu on her arrival at the airport and is expected to meet Taiwanese officials while she is on the island. Truss also told reporters that the Asia-Pacific needs a more formal NATO-style security alliance and current pacts like AUKUS and the Quad to ensure regional security.
Still too many in the West who are trying to cling on to the idea that we can somehow cooperate with China on issues like climate change as if there's nothing wrong. As if there are bigger issues than Chinese global dominance or the future of freedom and democracy. But without freedom and democracy, there is nothing else.
Maryland's governor has signed a new law aimed at responding to a Supreme Court ruling that has transformed the gun control battle in the United States. The raft of bills signed by Governor Wes Moore yesterday includes a measure to prevent someone from carrying a concealed handgun in designated areas like schools and hospitals, but it removes language that said a person must show good and substantial reason to carry a concealed firearm outside of a home. The Maryland state law is the latest response to last June's Supreme Court ruling in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin, a case that directly challenged a New York State law requiring gun owners to prove they had a special need to carry a firearm in the public. The court ultimately deemed New York's law unconstitutional, saying the right to carry a gun extends beyond the home. North Carolina lawmakers have voted to override the governor's veto of a ban on most abortions after 12 weeks. The measure was passed by the state's Republican-controlled legislature in early May, but was vetoed by Democratic Governor Roy Cooper over the weekend. Republicans overturned the veto in back-to-back votes, prompting chants of shame from onlookers. The law, which cuts the window for abortion in the state down from 20 weeks, will now take effect on the 1st of July. Yesterday, the state Senate voted 30-20 and the House by 72-48 to override the veto. To some business stories, spokesperson to President Muhammadu Buhari, Garba Shehu, says the inflation spike is a global problem and not peculiar to Nigeria. On Monday, the National Bureau of Statistics released its latest report showing its consumer price index, which measures the rate of change in prices of goods and services. The consumer price index rose to 22.22% in April 2023, up from 22.04% in the previous month. NBS said items such as food and non-alcoholic beverages, housing, water, electricity, gas, fuel, and others contributed largely on the divisional level to the increase in the headline index. But in a statement yesterday, Shehu said the global economic downturn was triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic and that no nation was immune to it. President Joe Biden and Republican leaders have expressed cautious optimism that a deal to raise the U.S. debt ceiling is within reach following emergency talks at the White House. But House of Representatives Speaker Kevin McCarthy told reporters that the two sides are still far apart. Without a deal, the U.S. could enter a calamitous default on its $31.4 trillion debt as soon as the 1st of June. A failure by the U.S. government to meet its debt obligations could trigger global financial chaos. The Democratic president said yesterday's hour-long Oval Office meeting was productive. Mr. McCarthy said afterwards that he believed a deal was possible by the end of this week.
Very big election where the Democrats won and took over their Supreme Court. They had work requirements on the ballot, 82%. And what work requirements actually do, help people get a job. Every data point shows that, and it helps people move forward. So the public wants it. Both parties want it. The idea that they want to put us into a default because they will not work with on that is ludicrous to me. Look, we're talking about all the programs because it helps people get into a job. And what does it mean when somebody gets in a job? They get better pay, they're able to buy their houses, but it also helps our supply chain going forward. So this is something that President Biden as senator voted for. This is something that President Bill Clinton signed. Are the Democrats become so progressive, so far to the left, they're changing their policies now, and they want to put the country in default? Look, the Republicans are the only ones who have raised the debt limit. And we did it with an idea of limit, save, and grow. Grow our economy, make it stronger, make us less dependent on China, and curb inflation. And that's exactly what it is.
Now to sports. Folarin Balogun has committed his international future to the United States, reaching England and Nigeria. A 21-year-old Arsenal player who is on loan at Reims in France, who was born in the U.S. to Nigerian parents and raised in England. After FIFA cleared him, Balogun decided to pitch his tent to the U.S. is expected to join the U.S. men's national team for the CONCACAF Nations League Final Four from June 15th to 18th in Las Vegas and could make his senior team debut in the semi-final against Mexico. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola says his legacy is exceptional as he prepares for today's Champions League semi-final second leg against Real Madrid. City, who have never been European champions, drew 1-1 at the Bernabeu in last Tuesday's first leg. Guardiola has won 2 Champions Leagues as a manager with Barcelona in 2009 and 2011. The winners will face Inter Milan in Istanbul on the 10th of June after the Italian side beat AC Milan 3-0 on aggregate to reach the final for the first time in 13 years.
I said many times when I arrived here, I signed the contract 7 years ago, didn't tell me how to win the Champions League. I met with Chiqui and all the people say try to, the reason why they bring me here with my staff to do the best as possible. But of course, we cannot deny, so we won all the titles except this one. And we want it. Of course, we want it. It's another opportunity. We had 2 seasons ago when we lost the final against Chelsea last season, against Madrid this season again. So, yeah, we want it. Of course, we want it. With all desire, and I think with being intelligent and smart enough to do what you have to do to win that game. And this is what we wanted to do. People say, yeah, we are close, for this kind of titles. I think we are far away. So come down the most difficult games to play right now. So, but in the same time, every time it happened last season when we played against Madrid or previous season against Chelsea.
In tennis, Novak Djokovic criticized the Cameroon Norway's behavior after the Briton hit him with a smash while his back was turned in the Italian Open match. Djokovic reached a 17th successive rope quarterfinal with a 6-3, 6-4 win in a touchy encounter yesterday. He had already been irritated by the British number one's shouts of "come on" before being hit in the ankle when he had already given up the point, having delayed the start of the match for a few minutes while he was in the treatment room. Djokovic wasted no time in racing into a 3-0 lead before Norrie slowed down his opponent's charge with a couple of holds. Norrie uttered a brief sorry and raised his hand in apology, and in whistles from the crowd and a huge glare from a clearly riled Djokovic. Before we end the news, here's a recap of our top stories. 4 persons have been killed following an attack on a U.S. consulate staff convoy along Atani Osamale Road in Anambra State yesterday. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has arrived at the Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal sitting in Abuja for the presumed pre-hearing of his petition against the president-elect, Bola Tinubu. On the foreign scene, former British Prime Minister Liz Truss has said democratic countries must make clear to Beijing that it would face sanctions and other repercussions if it attacked Taiwan. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. That ends Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. I am Okoye Muni. Thanks for watching.